Well, joining us now is Liana Fix, Senior Fellow for Europe at the Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, so President Trump first talked about purchasing Greenland back in 2019 during his first term. So how seriously should people be taking this push? Is it a negotiating tactic, or does Europe believe he's willing to actually cross the line to get Greenland?
The Europeans were not taking it seriously back in 2019, but they were also not taking it seriously last year when Donald Trump was speaking about it. So this year was a real shock and a wake-up call because Europeans very quickly realized this is not just talk for leverage. This is not just demanding a lot to then scale down and end on a compromise in a deal. The US administration seems to be serious about their claim on Danish territory, on Greenland, which makes it very difficult for Europeans to negotiate.
Yeah, I just think the news overnight, too, of sharing these messages with other foreign leaders, talking about the annex or forcibly acquiring the territory from Denmark and having other people weigh in who are part of NATO. Is this the end of NATO as we know it? Could the alliance survive this if this does take place without support from Europe?
If this takes place as an annexation against the will of Europeans, you don't even need a formal end of NATO. You don't even need the United States or the Europeans to leave NATO because NATO is built on credibility. And if the main protector, who is the United States, instead of protecting the allies, annexes a part of the territory of allies, then obviously all credibility of NATO will be gone anyway. So even without formally declaring it the end of NATO, the credibility would disappear, and that would lead especially Moscow to believe that the United States would not come to the help of European allies and to the help of protecting the territorial integrity and the territory of European allies.
That makes sense. European leaders have tried offering everything but territory, more troops, investment, NATO presence. Why isn't any of that working?
Yeah, so Europeans try to really max out what they can offer short of territory, security, economic incentives. But if the US position is that it really is about territory more than it is about economic and security concerns, if there really is an interest in illegal annexation of Greenland, then all these offers will not help. And that's why Europeans are engaging the administration, the US administration, but at the same time, they're also trying to deter the president with countermeasures of going that far, also in the hope of that time will help, that in the longer run, other issues on the agenda might deflect the president's attention if he encounters resistance on Greenland.
I want to point out, NATO came to our defense the minute that 9/11 happened. So if people don't have a huge idea about what NATO means, hopefully that historical mark is something where they came to our rescue in a lot of sense, no questions asked. And now Europe's also talking about, deterrence against the United States economically and politically. We found ourselves now in this situation, this back and forth with people who have been our allies. How realistic is it for Europe to do that? Especially there is a reliance now on U.S. security guarantees with the war happening in Ukraine.
Yeah, for Europeans, it's really a chicken and egg question. So the one side, in one school in European thinking right now argues, well, let's not escalate too far with the United States over Greenland, because let's not employ the European tariffs in response, because we still need the United States for our security guarantees. The other side argues, well, but if we don't escalate now and deter the United States from going that far, then NATO will lose its credibility anyway, and then we will also lose all security guarantees. So at the moment, the arguments in Europe are really going round and round. When it comes to, in the end, it all comes down to the question, will the United States still remain a credible ally, or will it become an adversary of Europe?
Absolutely, and we've talked about all the fallout that could possibly come from that. Liana, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Absolutely.